I set up these criteria, these ideas of what's important about the Bitcoin blockchain, why it all started with the Bitcoin blockchain, and what made it important, and how you can tell if something really needs a blockchain or doesn't. And what the characteristics of a blockchain are, in my opinion, that it is open, it is public, it is borderless, it is neutral, and it is censorship resistant. Let's talk about each one of those. Open means that anyone can access it, anyone can participate in it without authorization, without vetting, without anybody checking ID or national card or ethnic origin or anything like that. Simply open. The funny thing about a blockchain is you don't even need to be human to use a blockchain. That's not required. Software can use blockchains without proving anything. And in fact, the blockchain doesn't know if you're a human or a piece of software when you use it. Borderless. Like the internet, there are no borders in this space. This is a purely international, a truly international phenomenon. And what that means is that it doesn't matter where you are, the blockchain is already there. And so suddenly you have this really weird problem, which is nobody who was writing that law could even think of money that was simply everywhere all the time. It didn't even occur to them. So none of that makes any sense anymore. What does it mean to transmit money when money isn't somewhere, but everywhere? What does it mean to transmit money when money is simply a number, a piece of information? Borderless. It means a lot more than you think of when you start realizing that money has become information that has no physical form, that has no physical presence, and does not exist in any place. It is not a thing of place, it is a thing of the mind. Okay. Neutral. What does neutral mean? Neutral means that a system of money should not care who the sender or the recipient is, should not care what the purpose is, should only care about getting the transaction through. It's communication. It's communication about value. Now, this seems like a very radical idea. Radical as in politically unfavorable. Radical as in dangerous. What if people could give other people money without anybody knowing about it? I mean, that sounds like a pretty dangerous idea. Oh no, wait, actually that's how the world worked for thousands of years. In fact, until the 1990s, that's how the world worked, right? People could give other people money. People can still give other people money. It's called cash, but even internationally, people could give other people money without anybody knowing what purpose it was for. What happened that was so bad that now we need to check everything? Censorship resistant. Censorship resistant means that if somebody wants me to stop sending money, to stop giving money to someone, they can't. And the reason they can't stop me is because this is a system of speech. Because money is communication, and because whether others believe that I have a human right to speak, a human right to associate, a human right to express myself, a human right to support the political causes, associations, organizations that I choose to, is their problem, because I have those human rights. I didn't ask for them, they weren't given to me or granted, I have them. There's a hint in the actual sentence. Human right starts with the most important qualifying word, which is how I got them, by being human. That's it. That's the requirement. Are any other humans here? You all have them. Great. Congratulations. So the idea here is that money as a system of communication is, like any system of communication, part of human rights. Now, there's a lot of governments who disagree with that idea, right? There's a lot of governments who used to disagree with the idea of separating church and state. There's a lot of governments who used to disagree with the idea of people voting, especially women. they disagreed with that idea too. There's a lot of governments that disagreed with a lot of ideas that we've now changed because we know better. So maybe, hopefully, in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, we will come to an understanding that there's a reason why we separate church and state. And for exactly the same reason, we should probably separate money and state. Because if money has a purpose of commerce, and you turn it into a system of policing, or a system of military control, or a system of war, one of the things that happens is it stops working as money. And that's a problem. So there's that. But there's a bigger problem. The problem is that if you give other people control over where you can and cannot spend money, those other people may decide that you shouldn't be spending money financing, I don't know, their political opposition, the other party, or anything else that you might be funding. And pretty soon, that kind of power turns into corruption. Turns out that's why we separated church and state in most civilized countries, because they corrupt each other. And if you take the banks and the government and you bring them a bit too close together, they start getting very corrupt. Very, very corrupt, right? The banks corrupt the government corrupts the banks, and then they all destroy the economy together. And we now have this system that is open, borderless, neutral, censorship resistant, and public. Public is the idea that everything you do is verifiable on the network by everybody else, which means no one can cheat, because you can run software that can tell you definitively if a transaction has happened or not. So with these principles, we've built a new system of money. Now the question is, what happens next? Who needs this? Who uses this? How will it develop? Will governments allow it to happen? Will governments try to stop it and it happens anyway because they can't stop it? We don't know the answers to those questions. What we do know is for the first time in history, we now have these capabilities.